Hello and welcome to Stephen University. We are back finally. A couple of weeks off. One of which my fault, one of which Chris's fault. Is that is that how we'll divvy
Even Stevens?
Is that how we divvy up the blame? So yeah, my work schedule got a bit nuts, and I couldn't make a recording session. And we were like, well, we just did the big Comic-Con episode. We can miss a week. No one will notice. And then we went to try and record one for the week after, and Chris's voice escaped.
I couldn't speak.
Chris couldn't speak. He sent me. I might put the. Would you object to me putting the audio of what you sent me in here?
No, it's fine.
I will
no,
play.
Don't worry, go ahead.
So in a second, after I finish the sentence, I will play the audio of what Chris sounded like when we were about to record last week's episode.
Though just to pre-warn you, I do still sound like this, which isn't podcast gold, although entertaining, I'm sure.
So there you go.
I mean, I wasn't even like I was at first, like when I first went down with it, but by that point, I wasn't even particularly like a lot of pain. It's just someone at work described it best, like because there was some stuff they had to speak to me on the phone about, and they were like, "Your voice just has no power. Like all the all the weight from your voice is just gone." Like it was the weirdest thing. But I am feeling better now.
Well,
although still a bit horsey,
you certainly sound better.
Yeah, absolutely. And keen to SU, Dan. Keen to chat. You got some.
Well,
you got a bit, but also not. So also, if we don't, and whenever we say this, we end up recording for 3 hours. But if we, because of those, this might not be the longest episode, which we apologise for. But obviously, it's to stop me not being able to talk next week and cancelling.
Yeah, well, next week we might do the. We might do my pitch for the movie, because I've been slowly working on that in the background. I've got the first 2 acts worked out, kind of just getting the final act sort of figured out. It's going to be a long episode, that one. I feel I'm worried I've done too much work.
I don't doubt that at all.
I think I've actually planned a movie, and taking you through the plot and the premise for that is probably going to take a little while. I'm excited to do it though and get feedback, and I like the idea that I'll like talk about a bit, and then Chris can interject and point out flaws and maybe things that maybe don't work as well as I thought, and then we can almost develop it on a podcast. I'm kind of excited about that. I think that sounds like a fun idea. The premise, the idea here was just so we had something to put up this week, so it is just going to be a quick one. I know that is usually the curse, and it ends up being really long, but we've not got much to talk about. So there's just been a little bit of news, and then there's a question. That sounds like a thing.
News and a question.
News and a question.
Delightful,
now,
Dan.
This has since been removed from Cartoon Network's channel. So I want to make a point here of saying that the information we have here, some might consider spoiler, just on the basis of Cartoon Network haven't officially released it yet. But I'll be honest with you, it's stuff we're going to know before the film comes out either way. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So anyone who is very spoiler-phobic, you'll probably know about this before it starts. There's one thing, though, that we can take from this that will lead to some serious speculation, and that is going to be interesting. So let's tackle that. So the first thing that we have, Chris, is we have the name of the villain.
Ooh.
And I've just had a thought of just like, I actually don't 100%. No, I think I know how to pronounce this. So basically, there's a video they put up. It was just a little like behind the scenes video, just like the cast talking about how excited the movie they're about the movie coming out and whatever. And one of the shots, you could look in the background on the wall. They had a drawing of that villain with the name written next to it. And you have to really zoom it in. I'll put the image on screen now, and you can probably see by how pixelated the image is that was really background stuff. I think they just missed it. But it's Spinel.
Say that again?
Spinel.
Oh, okay.
Which is a kind of gem.
So is that a type of gem? A type of...
Yes. It's a kind of gemstone. It comes in a variety of colours. A pure Spinel apparently is colourless. But impurities can be responsible for a wide range of colours. One of the first images that comes up when you do it is pretty much the color of I'll put that up as well, why not, of the gem that we see on the villain.
That's cool.
So what's interesting, there's 2 things interesting about that, in my opinion. Number one, that debunks the diamond theory. A lot of people thought she was a failed diamond, or a replacement for Steven that went wrong, or a replacement for Pink. Sorry, that went wrong.
I'm not, just to interject, I'm not sad it's not that in a way. I don't feel like we've explored the mythology, and this probably contradicts something I've previously said before, but thinking about it since, I feel like we've not really explored the mythology of the existing diamonds enough. Correct. Before adding another one.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with that statement, and I think that it was funny actually, because this is one of those few times that I got to be correct about a theory. We were talking on the Discord about the most likely explanations for this character's backstory, and people kept saying, I think failed diamond or replacement diamond is like the more likely, and I was just like, that's like third or fourth on my list of explanations for who this gem is, and I'm literally like 2 days later, this came out, and I was like, yes, I got one, finally! I was right about something.
Did you react the way that John Oliver reacts every time he talks about ATM water or whatever it is on Last Week Tonight?
Oh, the business daddy thing.
Like, I got you.
That's become one of my favourite running jokes on Last Week Tonight. If anyone doesn't know what we're referring to, John Oliver, obviously AT&T are like a part, like they're either like a part owner in HBO or like they've got some connection to HBO business-wise through parent companies or whatever. So whenever he shits on them, he like makes this whole thing about, I don't give a shit. I don't care, business daddy. I'm gonna, and he calls him business daddy, and he's like, I'm gonna shit on your service, and he does this whole like spiel, but he delivers it in this really passionate way. It's very funny. I'm sure you can find the clips on YouTube. Please do. It's very amusing. That's
what I imagine you reacting like. I got you. I got one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, got him. I got one right. Suck it, everyone. So yeah, I kind of. What does that leave us with theory-wise? Then I guess it would be my question. Like I can't help but think we're going back to this idea of a kindergarten gem, like a gem that runs kindergartens. That's not happy with
or
Steven's,
like
Steve, because I mean, I suppose it could even be as simple as they're out of a job now.
It could be as simple as that, or I suppose that's better, because I've always thought, like, any kind of, like, the cursed child went back to Voldemort and stuff, and I've always thought if you were going to do if you were going to do a sequel to Harry Potter, I don't know, for me it's right there on the table. The rise of the Death Eaters, like you have it be about the servants deciding to take the mantle on and do the fight, and maybe it's something like that. Although if it was going to be that, it would have been nicer maybe if the character had been introduced before, or the concept of the character had. I suppose you'd want a bit more time for that. I think the idea of someone being out of a job is probably the simplest thing. But the slight fear is I don't know, Chris sounds like a broken record moaning that he wants the movie to be a separate entity, but I do. So, something less tied would be good for me personally.
But I mean, I suppose that's kind of like, that's still going to feel like a very sort of movie villain. Like their reason for being there is something Steven has done already. So it's like they just come in, like, so Steven has kind of shut down the gem colonization program. Like you can't just keep going around the universe destroying planets to make more gems. When so we need to sort of stop invading all these other planets. That puts the kindergartners out of work. That's doesn't really have an impact on anything. Like it's tied to the original story, but it's not like integral to it. Therefore, it feels separate enough. I think that you get away with it. That's one idea. I think the most likely ideas are either a direct victim of the war on Earth, like Lapis, looking to take revenge on Rose in quote marks and the entire planet, or rogue gem from Homeworld that doesn't like what Steven has done for any reason, including out of a job, but also just like doesn't like the way he's changing gem society with human ideals, anything like that. Or it could be the job thing. I think those two are still the most likely, and I thought that prior to the reveal of the name Spinel.
Because I suppose the negative of the job thing is because from the trailer, she certainly seems to be very specifically targeting Earth.
Yeah, Earth and Steven, because there's that line where he's like, she's here to kill me, or something like that. So
yeah.
So I
Cool.
think the idea that maybe she's lost status in this sort of new world order, and she could even be. I think someone I think Latty suggested in the Discord maybe just anti fusion or anti off color, and therefore Steven's ideals were like really great at the wrong way, and it kind of it's almost could be a little parallel for the current situation we have on real Earth. Like,
I mean, I wouldn't put it past the team and Rebecca Sugar, but that would be quite something.
Yeah, exactly. That's an interesting parallel. So yeah, I think that's really cool. I think I like the name. I like the choice of gem. I'm glad that it's. I think I'm with you, Chris. I think I'm glad it's turned out to not be a diamond.
Yeah. I think so.
The other stuff that we got out of this is that the video, if you go into the information, it had voice actors listed.
Cool.
And it gave some names that we hadn't heard before. One of which...
Tell me more.
One of which...
Did you get very far?
One of which is probably the actress that's going to be voicing Spinell.
Ooh, tell me more.
And it is
does he have a car?
An actress called Sarah Stiles, who is clearly I'll be honest with you, not a name that immediately struck me. I don't remember, but someone posted a video of her singing "What's Going to Happen" from Tootsie, which is probably the first thing that comes up. She's looking at it. She's mostly known as a singer, actually. She's mostly known for working in Broadway theatre, basically. So it's once again going to the sort of that well of like people who definitely can sing and have a musical theatre background. But I think what's particularly the role she's done that like is the one I'm most familiar with her for, would be most familiar with her for is Kate Monster in Avenue Q. I don't know if she was the original Kate Monster, but that is a role I'm very familiar with, and therefore I kind of knew exactly that her voice would fit. And when you listen to her sing and you compare it to the voice that we got in the trailer, I'm certain she's the voice for Spinell.
Full of bricks, so I won't have any breakfast, maybe just a little tea. Like when you have to go and get a colonoscopy, which incidentally isn't half as disconcerting or upsetting as going for a part you know there's no way that you're getting. But anyway, I'm heading.
I think I'd love when Broadway stars do animation. I think it's a really good fit, and especially, this is a musical and all that kind of stuff, but it's I've got a friend whose son is works in the West End, has been in a number of shows, has played Raoul in Phantom of the Opera and stuff, and I've made references because, made films and stuff with Dan and with James, who we've mentioned on here, and I've said before, like, he's not done a lot of film stuff, and she's like, he can't do it. He's too big. His performances, years in the West End have made him too, like, it wouldn't work on film because he's too big a performer in facial expressions and actions and all of that sort of stuff. And whilst that doesn't work on live action film, it's actually perfect for animation. Like it means that the voice has a lot of character to it, and I love the voiceover work and animation gives those talents a place to shine, because some of the most talented performers in the world that, unless you're into Broadway and West End, you don't get exposure in this way. And I suspect for them it's probably quite, I don't know if Steven Universe in particular, Cartoon Network kids show, but it's probably quite lucrative and a nice way of supporting themselves. So I'm all for Broadway stars in animation. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, and I think particularly Steven Universe is a show that really lends itself to, because it requires a lot of. It's a theatrical show, and it's a show that involves a lot of music, and I think this all but confirms this villain. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't think there was a chance in hell this movie was going to come and go without the villain getting a traditional Disney villain song. Those are such an iconic element of those old classic sort of Disney Renaissance movies like that from that age, that villain song idea. So I had a feeling we were going to get that anyway, but knowing that she's very likely cast this singer makes me think we're definitely getting a villain song, and I love a good villain song. Who doesn't?
Yeah, if not multiple songs.
So if exactly, and if you're gonna hire someone who can sing, then that's smart. I think that's a really exciting casting. Again, maybe not a name that would immediately jump out to people. It's not Tara Strong, as I suspected, but I think a very possible. I think
Casting.
a very I think that's a very possible sort of use for that. I've completely lost what I was saying. I had a thought and then I saw something on my screen because I was trying to get some information for the next thing I'm going to talk about, and I lost what I was saying. Sorry, everyone, for seeming really.
You think it's very likely to be her, but obviously not confirmed, so the speculation continues. But if it is her, then that's a really exciting thing.
I think very likely based on comparing the audio, like of her singing. Because I listened to the clip of her singing Tootsie and then sort of compared the voice to what we've got in the few snippets we've heard in the trailer, and I think I think we've gone beyond likely even. I think it's pretty close to being confirmed.
I love as well that implies again, and so much is speculation and shifting back and forth, but the idea of casting a Broadway star suggests there's going to be a lot of music, which, as we know, I'm all for.
Yeah, 100%.
Going to make it a musical.
There were two other bits of casting news. There's one that's just potentially confirmation of something we really wanted. And there's one that has a lot of potential speculation stuff behind it. Which one do you want to hit first?
This is confirmation and then speculation.
Cool. So the one that I think is really interesting for like sort of confirming something we've hoped would happen is when it listed actors, Amy Mann was listed. Not as a musical collaborator or writer, but as a voice actor.
And she's Opal, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think that means she's not just helped with the music, but has potentially lent her voice, which means potentially Opal. I think that is as close to confirmation as we're going to get till we watch the movie of Opal's appearance.
And that would be great.
I would be thrilled to see Opal again. We talked a lot about that in the last few weeks when we did our Giant Woman revisit. It came up, and then ironically, speculation started about her use in the movie, because then they announced after that that it was going to be a musical and that Amy Mann would be involved, and that was started off. It was a weird nexus of like timing things. We were there lamenting Amy Mann and her lack of involvement in the show since her first appearance, and then immediately we got Amy Mann's name thrown into the mix for the movie, and it was like it's kind of snowballed from there. I'm very excited about that possibility, and I would love to see Opal
that's
again
awesome.
In any capacity.
Yeah, and I think that's something like, because the character like hasn't been about and certainly hasn't been speaking for so long, that's a really nice example of something you can do to be a huge moment and fan service, which I mean is a compliment, not an insult, without treading on the toes of future moments. I'm excited by the idea of new fusions. There's an element of, they'd also be great in the show itself. Opal is something that's like great for the movie and doesn't disrupt anything in the show itself.
I would agree, and that actually leads me into the next one, because a fusion that we speculated about in the previous episode was the idea of Stephen and Greg fusing, right? So the speculation commences with this voice actor being listed, Ted Leo, who is an American singer-songwriter. He was the frontman and lead guitarist of a rock group called Ted Leo and the Pharmacists. He's also worked with Amy Mann multiple times. And if you listen to Ted Leo perform, you would not be mistaken for thinking, wouldn't that be a very suitable voice for a Stephen Greg fusion?
Yeah.
When the cafe doors exploded, I reacted to you. Cast a tap that sunny morning, I was coming to, but now I'm coming to.
It's, yeah.
I don't know why I find Stephen and Greg the exception to the rule I've just talked about. I think it's because it's like not. It's something so like because we know those characters so well and they're already so similar, you can chuck the shame of some of the fusions in Change Your Mind is being when they did Giant Woman, when they did Opal, when they did Stivoni, you get storylines about those fusions, and the nuances of them. You know, Amethyst and Steven's fusion, whose name I can't remember. The story of them, Smoky Quartz, like the story of those characteristics and what that means, and you really need the time to explore that. And I think one of the reasons that I'm a bit like nervous about new fusions in the movie is you'll be potentially either the movie halts or you get robbed of that. I'm sure you can tie it intrinsically to the movie, I have no doubt, but then again, the movie's dealing with show stuff, not individual standalone movie stuff. Greg and Steven, we know so well that you can do that fusion in the Change Your Mind way of just like, here's a fusion, and it's so fan service, but equally I wouldn't feel robbed of any storylines if we get that fusion in the movie.
Do you think part of that is because they're such similar characters that you feel like their fusion probably won't be that different, and therefore you won't feel robbed of getting to know them because you'll feel like you already know them already? Is that kind of it?
Absolutely. Yeah,
right.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Now this one is we are out of reasonable assumptions, like with Sarah Stiles. Is it Sarah Stiles? Have I said the name right? Yeah, it is Sarah Stiles. That's a reasonable assumption. Her voice matches. She's never been mentioned in relation to this before. I think that's a given. I think that is all but confirmed. I think that is. It would be. I'd be surprised to find out that anyone else was voicing Spinell. This one with Ted Leo, we have ventured well into the world of speculation. But I must say, if you go listen to any of Ted Leo and the Pharmacist stuff, I've listened to the first couple of tracks on the Shake the Sheets album, and I was just like, man, this is one part Greg, one part Steven.
But we've also got that shot in the trailer of them playing guitar and looking incredibly in sync.
Yeah, which if you remember, for the listeners who didn't hear last episode, we did. I can't remember who. I can't remember if I said it first or you said it first, but we certainly both came to the conclusion that seemed very fusiony. And 100%. We'd already speculated that prior to this. So when you add this into the mix, it does really. It's definitely pushing it that way.
Yeah, and I just think that would be so exciting and cool to see.
Yeah, I 100% think that's really awesome. The other thing that's interesting about this list of cast members is Grace Rollick isn't mentioned, who's Connie. So we don't even think this list
She's been seen in the trailer.
What's that, sorry?
She's been seen in the trailer, hasn't she?
She has. She's in the trailer. Obviously, she there's clearly two scenes she's involved in. But I will say the one where she gives Steven the little kiss and walks away, she's got a bag over her shoulder. I think she leaves the movie pretty early on. I think she's going away for the summer or something. I don't think she's a major part of the movie, sadly. I think prior to it all going tits up, she has to leave. And it's,
And maybe you even, if you've got song over that, Connie went off on the summer holidays. Like you don't need to necessarily have the voice actor. You don't need Connie to say anything.
Yeah, I guess, but I suppose it might just be more that she's lower down because basically, presumably on YouTube, because this is from the metadata of a YouTube video. If she's only got a couple of lines, she's not a lead actress in the thing. Therefore, she's lower down the list. Therefore, she gets deprioritized. And when you hit the limit of characters on YouTube, when you can enter names, she might have. That's why she might have been missed out. I continue to speculate that she's not going to be in the movie much, which is a shame. But yeah, I mean, especially when you look at all the shots, like we've got 2 shots of her, and they're both pre it kicking off. She does not appear in any of the shots where they're battling this new villain.
But does that potentially add to the epicness of the battle? Because you're not... Connie is awesome at a fight, and I think that she could do wonderful things. But if you want to make this feel a bit different, having it be so alien and gem on gem and fusions and skills and all of that sort of stuff, although I suppose the Greg stuff negates that. But with the exception of missing the classic Avengers shot with her not being there, potentially it means you're not having to work out if the battle style they're going for is so gem-centric, not having Connie there means you don't have to work out what to do with Connie.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And I think as well that might be what leads us to the Steve and Greg fusion. He's not got Connie there to fuse with. So what's the next step? You know?
Yeah.
So like maybe maybe without that fusion option, he fuses with Greg instead. I think that's absolutely possible. So yeah, I think that's everything that we got out of that. I mean, certainly nothing huge, but like a lot of like little tidbits that I think are really interesting. I think Sarah Styles is like the most concrete, and the name of the villain were the most two concrete things we got out of it. Everything else is kind of like little tidbits that you can speculate on, but nothing that really gives anything away.
Yeah, but all like really exciting. Like the possibilities, like I'm really now more excited for the idea of a Greg Steven fusion.
And it's only 3 weeks away, Chris.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. Because I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, we're in August and this is September we're talking about. Do you think, so promotion-wise, do you think we'll get a second trailer?
I think we'll get TV spots.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we'll get 30-second, coming September 2nd, Steven Universe the movie, and like a couple of shots we haven't seen before. I think that's going to be it now.
September 2nd? I thought it was September 4th.
No, 2nd.
Oh, no, it's 2nd. Oh, yeah, because the 3rd, really annoyingly, I'm presenting something on the 3rd.
Yeah.
Which I've not written, actually, which means if the movie's coming up, I should really write that presentation. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the 2nd is the movie releasing on the airing on Cartoon Network and releasing on like video on demand services and stuff. The 3rd, the actual. By the way, this has been confirmed now. The album is going to be released on the 3rd, so we're not going to get music spoilers, thankfully.
Oh, that's great. That's good.
They're doing that a day later on purpose.
I mean, it might still find its way on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out.
The songs.
So let's quickly tackle. I feel like maybe we shouldn't do the question. I think we should save the question because there is one other thing we could talk about just very quickly and call this a day. We got some listener art.
Oh yeah. Let's pull that on us because we definitely should tackle this because it's stunning and it's incredibly humbling to receive such a beautifully crafted thing.
Yeah, 100% agree. At LRainBirdJ_art on Instagram sent this brilliant piece because it's one of those things where you glance at it and you go, oh, cool, it's me and Chris at the microphone, it's very nice. And then you look, the more you look at it, the more you realize it's referencing. I'll put it on screen. So the first thing you immediately notice is that Chris has cat fingers. Just brilliant. Lapis is wearing a green Power Ranger helmet. The Beachapalooza poster in the background has Pearl Jam playing in Beach City. Because Chris, obviously. The Crystal Gems poster in the background is in the style of the Avengers.
That Pearl Jam one is potentially my favourite, like, subtle one. Like, The Avengers stuff is quite clear. The Pearl Jam is, like, a real, like, detail.
Yeah. There's Dave's car is in the background. Do you remember Dave, his little learner car? I mean, just stunning detail. Obviously, a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids poster and Over the Garden Wall poster. And then I think the notes, if I've read this rightly, the notes on the notepad in front of me, I can make out foreshadowing. And then I think trivia. So it's full of little details like that. And the longer you look at it, the more stuff you spot. Like every time I was staring, I was like, oh my god, and there's this and there's that. Absolutely incredible. Like, yeah. It's just
the amount of thought that must have gone into it is just that anyone would think about our podcast that much is, like I say, very, very humbling.
Yeah, incredible. And I will say, Chris has a Doctor Who t-shirt on, obviously, which is just a neat little nod to pretty much your biggest fandom outside of the stuff we talk about on these podcasts, I think would be that, wouldn't it?
I think it's a very big question, Dan. What I'd have to think about. Doctor Who or the MCU, maybe. I think it's the right thing to put on the T-shirt to make very clear. Because obviously you've got the Avengers covered in like the Avengers style poster.
Sure.
I'm just trying to think. Yeah.
That
probably is Doctor Who. I'm trying to think what I know most about. What would be my specialist subject in a trivia thing, and I don't know whether that would be The Office.
Yeah, for me it'd be Harry Potter.
I go. I'm very niche on Harry Potter because it's very specifically the books.
Yeah, I do feel. Yeah, to be fair, I feel similarly actually that it's the books. Don't give me any fucking.
But you go deeper. I've still not seen the second Fantastic Beast movie, whereas you saw it at the cinema, so you go a little deeper than me. But yeah.
Cool. And I just noticed as well. Now that's a nice detail. There's a calendar on the wall behind me in that photo, and September the 2nd is highlighted.
Honestly, it's so good, and we are so grateful. And I'm glad. Yeah, check out the Twitter feed if you're listening through Spotify or something else. Check out the visuals if you're watching through YouTube.
Yeah.
But it would be great to get some eyes on it because it's we'll give the name a shout out. I can't remember.
LRainbirdJ_art.
Just incredibly talented. So please go check out the feed. Go check out their feed. Yeah. Go check out their other content.
Go give them a follow on Instagram. So yeah, there you go.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I think we call it there, Chris. We said it'd be a short one because there is a question that we were asked. I'll say what the question is now quickly. It's should Steven Universe ever go as far as to kill a character? Could that be handled? I think there's a debate to be had there, and I think that's quite interesting. But I think it's a wider debate than if we were to do that now, we'd be here another half an hour. Whereas I feel like that can, we can give that more time properly at a later date.
Yeah, we'll add if anyone's got any strong feelings on that, comment below with your feelings, and we will have a wider discussion on the themes, the more adult themes in Steven Universe, and how far they should take those, and the line they've toted with that in the past and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that could be a very interesting discussion.
Yeah, I think so. There you go.
Cool.
So thanks everyone for listening. I know it was a quick one, but just a few little movie bits to hit, and we'll be back with a full episode next week. In fact, to be honest with you, we'll probably make up for what you could argue is the missing 15 minutes, half an hour here, because I think if we do this thing I'm working out for the movie, it's probably going to be quite long. I took Nadia through so the opening scene I worked out in quite a lot of detail because I was really fixated on something specific about the opening scene. And I was taking Nadia through it, and she was like, "You've not done this for the whole film, have you? You've basically written the movie." I was like, "No, I promise, it's not this detailed for the whole thing." But the opening scene is absurd.
How influenced by the actual movie have you been? Have you made it a musical? Have you used characters we know are going to be in this, or is it literally?
You'll find out.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I do genuinely look forward to that. So.
Yeah. I've had a real, and I tell you what, I've had some real turnarounds on it as well. Like, some ideas I've had to completely go back on, and some ideas that I was not afraid, but like a little like, oh, I don't know if I'll get away with that, I've gone back to as well, because I was like, well, fuck it. The premise of the question was, they've given it to me to do. So I am not going to worry about what a studio would make me do. Does that make sense?
I think you've got yes, but I think you've got to be realistic in terms of budget.
Yeah, I have been.
Yeah,
I've been realistic in terms of budget, but I've not been realistic. I've been less realistic
suddenly appear.
Well, okay, I'll give you one example.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to use some of the original voice cast.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
but I think realistically, in a real world situation, there's no way a studio would let me do that. They would want Awkwafina to play Amethyst. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that, but the premise of this.
But what do you mean by the original? What, has Amethyst been played by someone different at one point? Then I'm confused by that.
In what, sorry?
The voice actor behind Amethyst hasn't changed at any point, has she?
No. I'm saying like if we were doing a live action Steven Universe movie.
Oh, it's live action. I completely forgot it was live action. Sorry. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm with you now. Yeah.
Yeah, the premise
Right.
was they decide they're doing a live action movie.
Yeah.
Everyone shits their pants because they're like, fuck, that's potentially going to be an Avatar: The Last Airbender situation.
I remember now. Yeah. I do remember now. Sorry, in my head, because it's been a while. In my head, even though it was my question, it shifted to what would you do with this movie? But no, you're right. Yeah, it's if they were doing a live action movie. Yes. So budget. I think you have to be slightly realistic, but no, I think you can. Yeah, you can stick to. I'm with you now.
So budget. I've been realistic, but I have definitely like. I'll give the game away now. I'm hoping to use the voice actors for the Crystal Gems, which again I know a studio would not be happy with. They would want, like I said, Awkwafina to play Amethyst, which isn't a bad piece of casting, but you know.
Yeah, they would want to go back in time and get the little boy from The Sixth Sense to be Stephen, that kind of thing.
I'll be honest with you. The trickier thing about this is that I've put more time and focus into the story than any other element. So what I've done is work out how you turn Steven Universe into a live action movie, rather than worrying too much about like what
casting,
about visually or casting or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to it.
No, I'm very excited.
So yeah, and I like I said, I had something very specific in mind as an inspiration for the opening scene. So I wanted to keep. So that one I actually planned out in an absurd amount of detail. So I'll take you through that, and then we'll go through the beats of the other acts.
Yeah, I'm excited. We should do that next time.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for... And by the way, the reason I've said we're doing that next time is to force me to finish, because I've been doing it in little dribs and drabs for the last few weeks, and I've decided that I just want to get it out of the way, because it's been distracting me from doing my other writing work. So I think I need... Because every time I've got to go to do writing now, I have this guilt thing of like, oh, but I've got to do the thing for Steven University. So like, it's been actually actively stopping me from writing other stuff. But yeah, come back next week to hear me sort of lay out what I would do with the story of a Steven Universe movie.
Yeah, cool. Looking forward to it. And sorry again, like illness. Sorry that it's been a short one. Sorry that it's been quite like we've had to ease into it because it was like little bitty things to talk about. We will be back to tangenting and back to madness next week for that episode.
I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that we had some little bitty things to do and that they hadn't dropped some huge news or a new trailer or something, because we would not have had time to tackle that properly. So it's actually worked out kind of perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Cool. There you go. Thanks everyone for listening. We will see you in a week's time. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And I've just already said it, but we'll see you in a week's time for more Steven University. I never learned my lesson with that. I always say, see you in a week's time. I've been Daniel, but it's the wrong way around. And then I have to say it again. So dumb.
It's a beautiful thing.
Every time. Every fucking time.
Oh, we've gone this whole time without swearing. Now you've made it explicit.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've got it set so it automatically sets this as explicit no matter what we say.
Oh, well, in that case, fuck it.